the previous lecture, I have told you about the various hormones that are involved in osmoregulation, that is, in helping to conserve water and salts into the biological system. Another important hormone that I have mentioned earlier was the antidiuretic hormone, also known as the vasopressin. This hormone helps the body to conserve water when the body fluid volume, especially that of blood, is low. It acts by inserting aquaporins in the collecting duct and promote the resorption of water. ADH also promotes the uh, increase in blood pressure during hemorrhaging by constricting the vessels. Thus, we say that ADH also acts as a vasoconstrictor. Another important hormone known as the atrial natriuretic peptide hormone, designated as ANP, acts as a vasodilator. Its role is to decrease the blood pressure. It is released by the cells in the atrium of the heart in response when the blood pressure is high, and also it is released in patient with sleep disorder called the sleep apnea, APNEA. ANP affects the salt release, and because water passively follows the salt to maintain the osmotic balance, we can say that ANP has an diuretic effect, that is, it does not help to conserve water. ANP prevents the sodium resorption by renal tubule, thus decreasing the water resorption and lowering the blood pressure. ANP also acts to suppress the action of aldosterone, renin, and angiotensin. Now, this was how the hormones help in osmoregulation. The next important topic that we must discuss is about the structure of kidney, the structure of nephron, as well as the excretory system. Now, we have already talked in previous lectures about excretion. Before discussing in detail about the anatomy of kidney, anatomy of other excretory system, as well as physiology of excretion, I will briefly explain about the process of excretion, what is excretion, and how it is different from osmoregulation. Now, excretion is the process of separation, collection, and elimination of toxic waste product, especially the nitrogenous waste from the body. Waste products are formed due to catabolism of amino acid, glucose, glycerol, and fatty acid. Unwanted substances like the drugs, pigments, excessive vitamins, carbon dioxide, water, excess of inorganic salts, hormones, bilirubin, and biliverdin must be removed from the body. So, kidneys play a major role as an excretory organ in all vertebrates. Besides kidneys, skin also help in elimination of urea, inorganic salts, water through sweat glands, and lung also helps in the elimination of water. Now, what is osmoregulation? The process by which the relative proportion of water and solutes and in the body fluids and the cells are kept constant. Osmoregulation, as already mentioned, is a process by which a balance between the water and solutes present in a cell or in body fluid is maintained as per the salt and water concentration outside the cell or the system. Osmoregulation controls the osmotic pressure of the body fluids and maintain the volume of blood constant. Osmoregulation maintains the necessary required concentration of electrolytes in the body fluid. There are various types of excretion like ammonotelism, ureotelism, and uricotelism. I have discussed about these type of excretion briefly. Though I have covered most of the points, like in ammonotelism, the nitrogenous waste is in form of ammonia. It is formed in the liver by deamination of amino acid. It is the least process which require minimum energy. That is, the energy expend uh, or energy required by this process is minimum. Ammonia is highly toxic. Ammonia is very soluble in water. It is excreted rapidly by urine. Ureotelism, here the nitrogenous waste is in form of urea. It is formed in the liver by ornithine cycle. The energy expenditure or the energy required to form urea is generally higher than the energy required for ammonia production. It is less toxic as compared to ammonia. It is soluble in water. It is excreted at a slower rate. Uricotelism, the nitrogenous waste is in form of uric acid. It is formed in the liver by ionogenic pathway. The energy required for formation of urea is very much. Uric acid require very less. It requires a high amount of energy for its formation. It is non-toxic. It is insoluble in water. It is excreted very slowly. It is excreted in form of semi uh, solid like paste form or in pellet form. Aquatic animals generally are a monotelic. The mammals like man, amphibians, reptiles, and tortoise are ureotelic. Euricotelic are land animals like birds, reptiles, snails, and insects. We will discuss about the ornithine cycle later. The excretory system. In humans and other mammals, small quantity of uric acid is formed by the breakdown of purine and pyrimidine nitrogenous base of nucleic acid. In animals like platyhelminths, rotifers, annelids, and cephalochordate like amphioxus, the excretory organ is the protonephridia or the flame cells. They are called flame cells because these cells have particular ciliary structure in them which vibrates, and when observed they look like flame coming out of a candle. In earthworm and other annelid, the excretory organ is the nephridia, which is some what like the nephron present in the higher animals. In insects and cockroach, the excretion or the excretory organ is the Malpighian tubule. In crustaceans, the excretory organ is the antennal gland or the green gland. Here is a chart which describes about the excretory system in various organisms. Excretory system of man. This is a picture which shows the position of excretory organ, that is kidney, in the coelom in the human body cavity. The position of the kidney just below the diaphragm in the abdominal region. It shows the presence of adrenals above the kidney. Renal artery and renal veins are visible, innervating the kidney. The inferior vena cava, abdominal aorta, ureters, which brings about the urine from both the kidneys, urinary bladder, and urethra. Kidneys are bean-shaped structure of chocolate brown color. They are situated in the dorsal side of the abdominal cavity, behind the peritoneum, one on either side of the vertebral column, between the 12th thoracic and third lumbar vertebrae. The right kidney is slightly lower than the left kidney. It is about 11 centimeters long, 6 centimeters broad, and 3 centimeter thick. It weighs about 150 grams in male and 135 grams in female. Each kidney is covered by a fibrous capsule over which lies a layer of adipose tissue called the perirenal fat and the outermost fibrous sheath called the renal fascia. The outer margin of both kidney is convex while the inner margin is concave and shows a notch called the hilum. Renal artery and renal vein, lymphatic vessels, nerves, renal pelvis enters the kidney through the hilum. The upper pole of each kidney is broad and has adrenal, also known as suprarenal gland, attached to it. Each ureter arises from the hilum of the kidney by forming a funnel shaped expanded renal pelvis, runs downward, enters the bladder obliquely, and opens into it. They are a pair of narrow, thin walled muscular tubes measuring about 25 centimeters in length and 3 to 6 millimeters in diameter. The function of ureter is to carry urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder by rhythmic contraction of its muscle wall, known as the peristaltic movement. The kidney filters the blood and all the blood in the human body is filtered many times a day by the kidney. These organs use up almost 25% of the oxygen absorbed through the lungs to perform this function. Oxygen allows the kidney cell to efficiently manufacture chemical energy in the form of ATP through aerobic respiration. The filtrate coming out of kidney is called the urine. As I have already mentioned earlier, that kidney has on the outer surface it has a concave appearance and on the outer surface it has the convex appearance and inner side has the concave appearance, and helium is the concave part of the bean shaped kidney. Now about the bladder. Bladder is situated in the pelvic cavity in front of the rectum in male and in front of uterus in female. It is median, single, hollow, ovoid or pear-shaped, distensible muscular sac. Distensible means जो कि ज़्यादा यूरिन की वॉल्यूम आने पर फूल जाते हैं, फैल जाते हैं, और यूरिन जब एक्सक्रीट हो जाता है, शरीर के बाहर निकल जाता है, तो वापस ये अपनी ओरिजिनल स्थिति में आ जाते हैं। इनको हम बलून के जैसे समझ सकते हैं। जब बलून में हवा भरी जाती है तो वह फूल जाता है, और हवा जब निकलती है तो वो वापस अपनी शेप में आ जाता है। ठीक इसी तरीके से द ब्लैडर और द यूरिनरी ब्लैडर is distensible muscular sac. It shows a thick layer of smooth muscle called detrusor muscle lined by transitional epithelium that allows the expansion. In the lower part of the posterior wall lies an inverted triangular area called trigone. This is the structure of urinary bladder. In the lower part of the posterior wall lies an inverted triangular area called the trigone. The ureter opens into the upper lateral angle of this area, while the opening of the urethra is located at the lower end of the triangle. It acts as a temporary reservoir for the storage of urine. It helps in the micturition, means urination. The process of voiding of urine by contraction of the bladder wall and relaxation of urethral sphincter is called micturition or urination. Excretory system in man. In male, urethra is about 20 centimeters long and extend from lower end to the bladder. Lower end of the bladder to the tip of the penis. In female, the urethra is 4 centimeters long. It opens separately just in front of vagina. The flow of urine is guarded by sphincter. This is the picture, the diagram of urethra, starting from the tip of or the lower end of the bladder opening to the tip or the external urethral orifice. This is the female urethra, again originating from the lower region of urinary bladder. The flow of urine is guarded by sphincters. The internal urethral sphincter at the neck of the bladder, which is involuntary, while the external urethral sphincter situated at the lower level is under voluntary control. That is, one can control passing the urine. In females, it carries urine only, while in males, the urethra joins with the ejaculatory duct to form a urinogenital duct and carries both urine and semen. The nervous control of micturition. Urine is formed by the nephron, is ultimately carried to the urinary bladder, where it is stored till a voluntary signal is given by the central nervous system. The signal is initiated by the stretching of urinary bladder as it gets filled with the urine. As you can see in this diagram, this is the urinary bladder. When it gets filled, swollen up with urine, which can be seen yellow colored, then this stretching of the urinary bladder triggers the impulse, and this impulse is carried to the central nervous system by peripheral nerves to the spinal cord. As you can see, the nerves innervating the spinal cord at L1 to L5 and S1 to S5 region. So, the signal is given is initiated by stretching of the urinary bladder as it gets filled with urine. In response to the stretch receptors on the wall of the bladder send signal to the central nervous system. The central nervous system then passes on the motor message to initiate the contraction of smooth muscle of the bladder and simultaneous relaxation of the urethral sphincter, causing the release of urine. You can see the internal and external sphincter. The process of release of urine is called micturition or urination, and the neural mechanism causing it is called micturition, micturation, micturition reflex. Histology of kidney.